they have invited me to play F125 early. So in order to say thank you, I thought I'd bring them this. You see, the plan is we're going to actually get to meet the developers of the game. And so I'm going to attempt to give them my Fernando Alonso picture as a little thank you for making the F1 games over the years. This is probably going to be the most embarrassing moment of my life because there's going to be a bunch of other F1 creators there as well. But hey, at least I get to play some of the new Formula 1 game. Also, if you are interested in purchasing the game, you can get 10% off the standard edition and 15% off the iconic edition just by using code DANNOSKILL at the checkout when pre-ordering or purchasing the game. This only works on the EA app as shown on screen right now, and a portion of that will go back towards the channel, which helps me out. Right, so with that out of the way, let's talk about what's going down. Because it wasn't just going to be me at this event, there was going to be a whole load of F1 creators. And so having to explain me handing Fernando to the game devs to the other creators might be a little bit difficult. But as the day rolled around, I didn't worry about that, and instead worried about how, in classic British fashion, my train was of course running late. Eventually, I did get on board and began moving. And have I told you yet where the event was going to be? No, I've not. Because it was, well, it was Birmingham. And apart from the crazed man on drugs who nearly wiped out half of the F1 content creator sphere, yes, that actually happened, this was the only thing I could think to do when I got there.
I've arrived in Birmingham. Obviously, all I can think of is classic meme of the happiest man in Birmingham.
I just woke up in a f***ing steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a hole. Do you know what I mean? Birmingham is a f***ing hole.
With all of the obligatory Birmingham memes out of the way.
In the UK, we call this a pavement, after the Latin word pavimentum.
No, in Birmingham we don't. In Birmingham, it's called a willy swilly milly-killy. Not a bloody pavement.
I had to now find my way to the event to, you know, do the actual thing I was there to do. But hey, look who I might have bumped into on my way there. Yes, it is Winter Slop Hater and totally not pre-arranged meetup, not applicable. So of course, meeting him, I had to explain my plan to him.
Oh my goodness, who is that who I've totally not just met already? Is that not applicable F1?
It is.
In the flesh?
We have the same camera.
That is so great. That's because we're the best.
Well, reaction. I have prepared something for the developers of F125, and that is just a little thank you note for them, and I would like your reaction to it. Yeah, you can have it. And you're gonna give them this.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to one of the developers. I don't know which
That's
one.
That's very
yet.
kind of you.
I know. I hope they like it. What are your thoughts?
Did you print this out yourself?
I made it myself.
And it seems so professional.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you handing this to someone
in front of a bunch
who actually has a real job.
I know, it's going to be very silly.
I'm going to be honest with you. Me and James must have wandered into the wrong building about 3 times.
Stop! You violated the law!
And then walked past the right building 4 times. But eventually, we did find our way there. Admittedly, that was my fault because I think James pointed at the right building and I went, nah, it's not that one. Somehow, we were still on time. Now, once we were inside, we got a bit of a rundown of the day, we got a presentation, and we got the bit probably most of you are excited for, actually getting to learn and play the game. What I was also able to do in this little pre-meeting was scout out who I wanted to give my Fernando Alonso picture to. And I decided that the creative director of F125, Gav, would be the perfect target. I'm sure he didn't go into that day expecting to receive the silliest present he's ever got from an F1 YouTuber, but you know, life is full of surprises. Firstly, I actually had to do the thing I was there to do, and I had to play the game. So we were going to try 3 different areas of gameplay. The first one was my team career.
I'll do my first ever race start in F125 give it a go.
Now, if I'm going to be honest with you lot, which I will be, I genuinely think it's a big improvement on the previous iteration. If you've played any of the past F1 games, you will probably know how my team career works, or at least used to work. You were the owner of the team, let's say Lawrence Stroll, but you were actually 20 years younger than Lawrence Stroll because you also drove the car. You could upgrade your facilities as you earn more points. You could upgrade your car. You even got to pick your second driver. But apart from that, the owner part of the gameplay was very much secondary to the driver aspect of the gameplay. You could also pick from like a few selected liveries, and overall customization in the game was actually kept to a minimum. Gav, the creative director, actually put it perfectly on the day. He said with the previous F1 games, you could line up 1,000 player liveries and they would sort of all end up looking like the same 10. But the new direction they've gone in for this game and the new My Team career is, at least for me, exactly what I've wanted from the game. Money and the cost cap plays a lot more of a role in the game than it ever did before. I don't think the previous iterations even had the cost cap. Which does also now mean that if you bin your car in the wall, there is a consequence to that, and you will be punished with a loss of cash. You're also now finally the owner properly. You're not a driver anymore, you manage two different drivers. I couldn't afford Alonso when I was there, sadly, because I just started the game.
Can you guys give me a loan and then maybe I can afford him?
Who do you want?
I want Alonso.
But you know, I tried to get him, I'm sorry. But then when you're going into a race, you pick which driver you want to race as, which is a really fucking good idea. I don't know why they didn't do it before. You can now finally move around and actually have customization with the decals, the sponsors, the numbers on the car, and there's more gradients and colors. There's just a whole lot more customization, which means you're not going to be looking at the same 10 liveries over and over again. This honestly appeals to the more graphically talented people out there. I'll be honest, I'm usually happy to just whack a 69 on the front of the car and call it a day. And, you know, maybe pick some really ugly color scheme. They've also managed to make the skill trees and facility upgrades way more in depth. It's not just upgrade one of 3 facilities anymore. You're picking certain aspects to upgrade, which will then reflect on your driver's stats. And now with you managing 2 drivers rather than just being the owner driver, you have more to think about in terms of how you want to balance those 2 people. For me, this is what I've always wanted. My team won, which was the original. It was fun, don't get me wrong. I sunk a lot of hours into it. But it was never really a proper team owner experience. It was kind of just, you drive a car that is new on the grid and not the same color as everyone else. No! But My Team 2 actually seems to have some of that stuff you'd expect from F1 Manager, but obviously not anywhere near as in depth as that game, because that game has a lot of text to read, and I'm not really that good at that. I'm one of those people that complains I don't get the story in a game, but then skip through half the dialogue. But the new My Team feels like a much better middle ground between the old My Team and F1 Manager. I don't want to go massively in depth. I still want to play a fun racing game.
I'm not, you should be.
But I also would like to simulate a little bit being an owner of a team. After we played a bit of My Team and also played some of the game, we had to move on to the next part of our sort of experience. And the next thing we were going to do was test the new version of Breaking Point. Don't worry, I am also going to go through the tracks and the handling very shortly. I know a lot of you will be here for that. And you will also find out later in the video if I have the balls to hand the Fernando Alonso poster to someone. I just need to pick my moment very carefully. Now, before we get into Breaking Point, I am going to very quickly ask, if you are enjoying the video, please consider hitting the subscribe button for more motorsport and F1 content. I am so good at being a YouTuber, I know, because I also remember to thank my channel members. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. All these people on the screen are legends. You can become one too, it from just 99p a month. But let's talk about Breaking Point rather than have me yapping. And there's really not a whole lot I can say without spoiling too much. So I will keep this part a little bit shorter, but I'll try and be brief and detailed. Now, me keeping this short isn't me saying Breaking Point is bad, but it is just more Breaking Point.
Jump park, young fella. I'm gonna batter the fucking face off you.
For those who don't know, it's basically the story mode element of Formula 1. It follows a fictional team called Motorsport. They should have called it Dan No Skill Epic Formula 1 team, but whatever. Maybe I should have requested the devs to change it to that.
No.
This is the third installment of Breaking Point, and as far as I know, it's the last one, at least of this story. Who knows if they'll do more in the future. But the story mode of F1 only releases on the odd-numbered games. So if you remember playing F1 24 and not seeing a Breaking Point, you're not going insane.
I knew that lock had a lock on it! And everybody was trying to make me feel like I was losing my lock.
It's fine, don't worry. From what I played, I thought it was a lot of fun. They've listened to what the fans have said and added a harder difficulty mode because I think a lot of people were finding Breaking Point a little bit too easy. Personally, I find it hard enough because I go into a spin every 2 seconds. And that is just a pure skill issue. You see why I'm living up to my name. They have also changed one other thing, which I think is a really good idea. They've made it so that once you finish the story, you can carry on and keep playing as them in My Team career mode with the team, which I think is a nice touch if you enjoyed the characters and the storyline and then want to make your own. Honestly, for me, the most interesting part of the Breaking Point bit was hearing from one of the developers called Dan. Not me, a different Dan. And he, as of F1 23, had been working on a lot of the voice acting and sound design in the game. He was talking to us especially about how he's been trying to add a lot more driver radios into the F1 games, and it was really, really interesting. I have no idea if I'm allowed to say this, but he's basically listened to every team radio in Formula 1 over like the past 2 years. So, Lance Stroll likes to complain a lot.
The big confirm button is the OK button, Brad.
And Yuki Tsunoda apparently can't go an entire sentence without a swear word. I don't know if that's big news, but it was funny to hear. I also said he should definitely include the Leclerc, the seat is full of water radio message.
Must be the water.
And he said he does like to hide little Easter egg messages in there. So if that radio message is ever in a future F1 game, I am taking full credit for it. Don't care. I actually did do a little bit of yapping straight after this bit, so I'm going to include some footage of that here just to give you my raw initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts on F1 25, and honestly going in, I wasn't sure what questions to ask. As you know, I am the silly Formula 1 man. It was still enjoyable, and I still found myself actually learning things from the dev team. For example, how the handling actually works. Not only do they just look at the onboards and find out how fast someone was going through a corner, they also actually talk to the engineers who give them some insight on how the car should feel, as well as having a stable platform. This is just my insights as epic gamer. I am not a racing driver, who you will hear from someone who's driven race cars later on in the video.
I apologize if I yapped a little too hard there. I honestly got a lot more caught up in the game than I thought I would. But don't worry, I was still focused on the mission to hand over Fernando Alonso. Before I could do that, we had to test one more element of the game. This was sort of a free play session. We started off in time trials, but then they let us set up some Grand Prix and stuff. And also, yes, try the reverse tracks. For those who are really technical, they've LiDAR scanned a few tracks for this year. Something they keep doing every year to try and just keep the tracks updated. If you don't know what LiDAR scanning is, it's something really cool and technical I don't fully understand, where they get like radars and scan the track. The interesting thing about F1 games is they scan them on the race weekend, so it's actually taken from a real Grand Prix. This year there was Miami, where the middle section feels a hell of a lot better than it's ever felt before. Suzuka, where they've managed to fix the camber on the bank corners, which has helped them to get more realistic lap times out of that track. And Imola with just some more realistic surfacing. It was already quite an accurate track. Apparently it was Verstappen's favorite when he played the game. But we will continue because that's quite technical stuff. I thought the tracks and the handling were a big improvement. You'll be happy to hear that. I know a lot of people thought F1 24's handling model was a huge downgrade on 23, and the cars just felt a bit inconsistent through the corners. But this year, at least to me, felt a lot better. I'm sure you know I am an expert racer. I'm definitely not. Thankfully, this is where I could put some of the other guys who were there to use for my own personal game. And who is better to ask about the handling of race cars than top-level sim racer and actual race racing driver, YouTube legend Steve Super GT.
First of all, I want to apologise that you got stuck with me and James because we probably know nothing about like racing driving in comparison to you, which is why I thought instead of me yapping about how the car handles this, that, and the other, I'd get your expert opinion.
Okay, well, so F125, what it feels like. Well, I mean, I've never driven an F1 car, so there is that. But I think the car feels very pointy on the front end, so it goes in very quickly, as it probably should.
Yeah.
But then what I noticed is the rear end was very light, so getting all the power in like third or fourth gear, it just spin around very easily. So the feel was really good on the front, maybe not so much on the back.
Yeah.
And then the curbs were pretty lethal. So you have to be super careful on the curbs. Obviously, in real life you do. But that's about as much as I can say because we've only had maybe half an hour so far. But
yeah,
I thought it was an improvement on what I've played before, like F1, 21, 22, 23.
Steve's insight was definitely more than I could ever do.
Thank you for your opinion.
Plus, I saw him actually fiddling with the setups and getting a bit more of a feel for how all that was working, whereas I don't even know where to start with those kind of things. Again, I do just feel bad he was in a group with me and James, because I think we went through more front wings than Williams did throughout the entirety of 2024. The skill level between me and Steve is just not comparable. Quick side note, but I did think adding the cherry blossoms to Japan was a really nice touch. They've redone a lot of the track foliage, so all of the environment around the track, to just make them a bit more lore accurate to real life. And honestly, at first I was like, that won't be that big of a change. And then I saw it and I was like, wow, it really does add to the atmosphere seeing local trees and local wildlife. But I'm sure you're all excited to hear about what the reverse tracks were like. So here is my opinion on them. For this installment, there are now 3 tracks you can drive the wrong way around, but without just going backwards in time trials and actually hosting Grand Prix events on them. I imagine there's probably going to be some more coming in future games, but that is just a guess from me. Right now in F125, we have Austria, Silverstone, and Zandvoort. Austria did feel pretty fun, but Austria is already quite a fun track, and it's quite hard to go wrong with that one. Zandvoort, going forwards, is already quite a difficult track. There's a lot of slow corners where it's really hard to get on the power, and you've got to sort of nail the apexes. And usually it's one of those tracks where I'm left with 15 broken front wings. But backwards, Zandvoort is amazing. Actually amazing. I genuinely think whoever designed Zandvoort, they're racing it the wrong way because it feels so much better going in reverse. The corners flow more. Like, obviously there's a couple bits that are a bit janky because it's a reverse track. That's kind of part of the fun. But if I got to pick, I'd rather race Zandvoort backwards than forwards. I'd be interested to see if people get faster lap times going the other way around it. Silverstone, unfortunately, I did not get to give a go as I was too busy focusing on the Alonso mission. So as you can tell, it had been quite a long day. My overall thoughts on F125 are that it's a positive improvement on the previous game. And it was really interesting to hear some of the developers' insights on why they make certain decisions, especially when they have to cater to such a wide audience with such massive disparities in skill level. But of course, now is the moment you've all been waiting for. Did I manage to hand over Fernando Alonso? Well, I hung around for a little bit and managed to grab Gav, and this happened.
I've actually got as you are the creative director of the F1, and there's something from myself. Yes, you can unfold it, go for it.
If I don't drive through a can you not go any further back? I can, but I don't want to.
If you like it, I do. You can have it forever. It's yours to keep. Awesome.
I did it! Yes! And he was so happy to have that picture of Fernando. Apparently, he's sticking it up on a wall somewhere. So EA, if you're watching this, I beg you, please make an Instagram post or a video where we can see it in the background. It was hilarious to do this, if not a little bit awkward and embarrassing. But if that does not deserve your subscription, I don't know what does. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all of the creators who were involved in this video, letting me film you. I'm sorry for interrupting your day, but I really do appreciate it. I know I'm a bit of a yapper, but again, a big thank you to Not Applicable James, who also, as well as being in this video, helped with a lot of the camera work and filming me and stuff. So make sure you go over to his channel and show him some love. Thanks again to the channel members. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for the support. It helps keep me going. Have a lovely rest of your day, and goodbye.